Welcome back, venturers. It's time for another discussion about VNs. I am MR, and together with ours, we need to talk. In contrast to the previous episode about lovey-dovey romance, it's time to discuss separation. What separation, you ask? Separation between VN readers and VN developers that deliver the Merslop, of course. So Tauros, tell us which dev abandoned us.
Yes, abandoned might seem like a strong word, but, unfortunately, in the treacherous world of capitalism, some businesses are just forced to shutter up forever. And so the visual novel scene is no different. As much as we like some companies and the works they put out, sometimes they close up, and that's the end of that story. And so recently this was inspired by news that Pixel Fade Studios would be discontinuing any further productions. They were quite prolific OELVN developers, the creators of Ace Academy, Crystalline, Ethereal Enigma, and Astral Ascension. Personally, I remember I read a bit of Ace Academy, and although I wasn't entirely impressed by the quality, it was a pretty impressive achievement back in the day for an OELVN to hit those kinds of, successes. I mean, it did. It had a quite lengthy common route. It had branching routes for each of the heroines, and it was very much like, trying to emulate that style of what you see out of AAA JP releases. And so, an English attempt at that huge entrenched industry already was very impressive at the time, I mean, I can't remember. Did you read part of Ace Academy as well, Amar?
No, although I have bought it. I feel like when it comes to Pixel Fade specifically, they were always on the cusp of, it's on the backlog, but not necessarily now, maybe late, at some point, okay? And since they had multiple sales over the years, at one point I just picked up Ace Academy.
Yeah.
But never quite read it. Took the time to read it. On the other side, I have backed, I don't remember when, but at the Kickstarter, I backed their title Crystalline, and I've read that one. It was all right. There aren't that many isekai, and that was an isekai title. I felt like the one thing prevailing in the title is the same one at some point was overdone, meaning they had a lot of cultural references. Yes, you have attended a magical university, and there was a magical professor on wheelchair named Xavier, and like, yes. And then there's some magical bus in which they were doing drugs with Mr. White. And like, okay. Okay.
See, I feel
it was fine.
I feel like that's a hallmark of some OELVN writers. Because, from a certain extent, we kind of expect a tone out of translated JP visual novels. We expect them to be semi-professional tone and very serious and punctual throughout. Whereas, you have something written overseas here in English, you have a lot more fun with it. And sure, it's not to everyone's tastes, of course not. That's not going to happen every time. But at least you can feel that, they call it soul. That the idea that you had someone who was passionate about it reading it.
Fair enough. I don't think it was quite my cup of tea. Okay, call me soulless then. But ultimately, it was fine. If anything, it was a little bit, how can I say it, tropey, especially given the fact it's an isekai. It's quietly, well, not necessarily in VNs, but in anime space it's quite overpopulated. So in that way, it felt not necessarily the title that stuck out amongst other isekais, other than it being a VN form. Because, okay, that's quite rare.
And to be fair, those are also products of their time. They originated, putting out a demo for Ace Academy back in 2014. Like at this point, that's over a decade old. And so you gotta also consider that there was, the visual novel scene was different at that time. Nowadays, we've kind of been spoiled for translated, big hitting releases. But, back then, it was few and far between. It was mostly fan translations. And so having anyone of that size of Pixel Fade Studios putting out a big old release like this was genuinely impressive. And so I think they've got quite a bit of, cultural impact on their side.
That's true. You make a good point, because with Western VNs that never been a part of the equation, like, oh, there's a new title on the horizon, you will need to wait until it gets proper translation. No, it's like, okay, you can just go read it. You don't need mastery of moon runes to enjoy this one. So that's true. And in the recent years, with the oversaturation and the choice we have in terms of translated VNs, they hadn't, and I reference specifically Pixel Fade, they hadn't breached my backlog, so to speak. I have, I think, Ace Academy for sure, and maybe something else from them. And it's just waiting for its turn, okay?
With that said, I mean, we've been talking about Pixel Fade Studios and the OELVN impact, but, they're by far not the only visual novel company to close its doors. I mean, it was also accompanied by news that Whirlpool would be wrapping up their productions with their latest release. They were the creators of Nekonin and Slavish Dragon Princess, right?
Yeah, those are the spammers. Yeah, I remember.
Wow.
Listen, I say that in the most lovingly way I can. They found a formula that works and kept turning out releases. Okay, fine. For Nekonin, I have read the up to Nekonin X Hard 3. Those titles were ridiculous at some point, okay? But up until number 3, and in my opinion, they did exhaust the potential of that title after second. So it was way too much. I think the first entry in that series was really good standalone, but past that it just became ridiculous so much.
But you can at least say that you had fun. You have happy memories of it, Nekonin, right?
I have laughed plenty in the original Nekonin from the absurd combination of normal high school guy living the normal high school life, but suddenly cat girls ninjas. More so, cat girl ninja bodyguards that go to school by walking on the roof and having the sprites upside down when they talk to him. Like that was fucking hilarious. Okay,
that's so
that
good.
made me laugh so hard. But at some point, there were so many characters on that roof. By the entry number 3, I'm like, what are we doing? Where are we going with that? How many guardsmen do you require?
We need new romanceable heroines with every entry, man. We can't stop. This is progress.
Why do you need cat gears from 5 villages to protect one protagonist? At some point, that's too many, okay?
No. At some point, you gotta go all the way. Yeah.
Okay, listen, I did not have patience to read the next after number 3, so I don't know how big the battalion of cat girls on the roof became. But similarly to that title, the Slavish Dragon Princess also had been spamming all the releases I saw. And whenever I saw that, I'm like, they found another working formula.
Which, I mean, I know you're saying it with, that kind of impression and stuff, but the idea of, finding a winning formula seems like a good thing, right? because you found something that your fans enjoy, so it's something that you can create. It's something the developer can hone their skills and improve on. And ideally, that sounds like a good thing. But on the other hand, from a business perspective, you would think that if you're farming the same market over and over and over again, eventually you're going to exhaust the potential money you can get out of customers. You get people like you who are like, okay, I read this to the point where I'm exhausted with it. I'm no longer interested in ninja cat girls on rooftops protecting the MC. So I mean, at some point you have to kind of pivot and try looking at something new. But then, you check the portfolio of some of these visual novel companies, and it's like, oh, well, every time they tried to pivot, it didn't seem to find too much success. So I guess that's the tragedy behind it, right?
Yeah, true. I mean, at some point, if you find something that works, you keep at it, because why fix what isn't broken? But on the other hand, there's a reason people criticize Sakura games for being Sakura games, right? Because there's crap how many of them, okay? Maybe there are 2 good ones.
Yeah, I thought it was because they're kind of popular, and it's only because of the erotic art. And it's like, okay, now you're giving visual novels a bad name because they think everything is like Sakura Swim
but it sells,
Club.
Okay?
Yeah, exactly, it sells, so it's like, God. How can you even be mad?
But I think they reached a point in which the formula stopped working, or they milked all the cat girls out of their ideas. I don't know. Although, like I said, I don't want to hate them too much, because the titles, the first entries, they were really good. And from the comedy standpoint, from the satirical standpoint, the pure hilarity of hijinks, of having your bodyguards upside down half the time. Like that, okay, that made me laugh. Okay, fair. Especially if you attend a class, there is a story to be told from the perspective of someone who attends a math class. You listen to the teacher what he's saying, and on the top of the rooftop, 2 cat girls are fighting for whatever reason. Okay, the jokes write themselves.
Imagining
fine.
Hissing cat sounds.
Exactly. And for some reason, you need a suspense of disbelief, because no one from the regular people looks up. Okay?
But of course.
They don't suspect a thing.
So, I mean, even though they'll be shutting down, I guess that's part of the appeal as well, is that the products will still be available in some form. I mean, sure, Pixel Fade is delisting all of them, but if you already own them, then you already have, those titles that you can always revisit at any point in the future. So, their works can still be appreciated. Just like how with all the Nekonin stuff, you can always revisit them. You could always go back for screenshots, right? That's one of the things that I like about, visual novels being a form of a self-contained form of media that's still out there. It's still accessible.
Although, for going back for a Whirlpool for a moment, given the fact they are closing with the next release, with the Relirium being their last title, I kind of am interested to check it out now. I'll be honest. That's a weird marketing trick, okay? But now I'm interested.
Well, it's not too
weird. That's their last entry.
I mean, you see that with, brick and mortar stores all the time. They're like the going out of business sale. And it's like, okay, well, that's certainly effective. It works.
Okay, fine. You're right.
Mm-hmm. So Pixel Fade Studio and Whirlpool were the 2 big recent announcements, but I mean, there's been several other companies that have closed their doors throughout the years. I know, what is it, Giga? How you pronounce it? The creators of Baldur's
Giga.
Yeah, of Baldur's Sky. And I mean,
I know. That's why I'm Gigasub.
Exactly. I mean, you read Baldur's Sky. You love it, right?
Yep. And I hope beyond hope that there will be more translations for Baldverse. I think that's what you called it. I don't know. I need more Bald. Wait, I need more Baldr, not Bold. Okay. Anyway. It's sad.
And I mean, they were really successful back in the day, and to a certain degree still, when it closed in 2023. But I feel like that might just be more a symptom of the visual novel industry as a whole. Part of it might be that, part of it also just might be the old outdated ideas that you have a company that's been around for decades, and ironically that might contribute to its failure to adapt in the modern era. I'm not very knowledgeable about what went on behind the scenes for the company, so I'm not going to make any assumptions or anything like that, but it's, the same kind of story you tend to see repeated out in modern mobile gaming, visual novel industry, other video games. Sometimes that unwillingness to adapt or not seeing the future of what to pivot to plays as much a role as any other.
And it was such a kick in the gut after I'm finishing the Baldur's Sky, and I felt that translation and its release on Steam has been done very well. And then I'm like, okay, what next? And I'm like, yeah, the next is we're closing down. Like, what? Huh? Not now.
Well,
you can do that.
Well, there's all sorts of titles in the Baldur's Sky universe. There's like a dozen spin-offs and sequels and stuff, right?
Yeah, but I'm not sure how many of them are translated. So it's up to fan patches and/or learning the forbidden technique of reading the moon runes.
Ouch.
And that's my pain point.
Well, they will be waiting for you. For either you to make the jump to moon runes, or for someone to pick up the arduous task of fan translating it.
Could you emotionally attack me like that? They'll wait for you. Oh my god.
Another big company that closed down, Lose, in 2022, the creators of Maitetsu. That one was
can't lose.
That one was shocking news, huh?
Yeah.
Have you read?
And I've read Maitetsu, and I don't think I've read anything else from them. And I feel like this announcement of closure has been shortly after their English release of Maitetsu.
There was an English release of Maitetsu?
Yeah, this Maitetsu has been officially translated.
It was officially. Oh,
there was a huge
wow
controversy about where to publish it. The Faku. Oh my god, there was a lot of problems for that official release.
Oh goodness gracious! I was out of the loop for all of that. Now I need to go digging into VNDB. That's always one of those things. I love how you can be a visual novel fan for so long, and yet you'll always find just niche stories behind all of these titles and the releases, and all that completely flew under the radar for you. And everyone's like, what do you mean you didn't know? It's like, oh, well, okay.
It's on Just USA, Faku, and Manga Gamer right now, and on Steam, but you need a patch for Steam version.
The fact it's on Steam in the first place, even patchless, is quite impressive.
True. That's true.
2018. Yeah, but Lose, just... I don't think they ever made a big announcement or anything, but they definitely just withdrew from the visual novel industry. And I'm sure we could speculate on the reasons why. But again, that says more about the industry.
I disagree. I veto their dissolution. They need to come back and translate the sequel. No, I refuse.
Oh my gosh. Sometimes
come back.
Sometimes I feel the same way, especially when there was a clear sequel, or like the original ended on a cliffhanger. You're like, you can't do this to me.
Yeah, get back
you
here.
You can't play with my emotions. No. Aye. Well, the nefarious option, just learning Japanese.
No,
Ooh.
stop saying that. No, no, I refuse. My backlog is too big for that.
I feel you. And going back even further, there was Minori, who closed in 2019. They released Eden, There Were Only Two on the Planet, and F, A Fairy Tale of the Two. I remember reading Eden, and goodness, they put so much into the production qualities. Oh, the art was gorgeous.
Yeah.
All of the scenes, so many CGs. All of the way, it looked like it was like a visual novel ahead of its time. You were like, oh man, this has all the gorgeous quality you'd see out of like something years from now.
Wait, oh my god, Eden asterisk has is as a very special VN for me because it's the very first VN. I wonder if I can even say, let's say I bought outside of Steam that needed me to acquire a credit card.
Oh.
Yeah, that was the very first purchase because before that, I could get all the titles, games, VNs, etc. on Steam. And that's the one I wanted and it was not available on Steam. And back in the day, me and my buddies just got one credit card and we bought on that.
You shared a credit card?
On my manga game. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. One of us got access to a credit card, we pulled money together and we bought at an asterisk.
Oh my gosh.
And I think to this day, this title was very, very mid. So it was not worth it.
Oh, that's a little harsh.
Yeah, but it was pretty. I give you that. But just the story just did not pull us whatsoever. For as much effort as we had acquiring it, it was not worth it.
Although, to anyone listening, I would recommend you check out the opening video for one of their titles, Supipara. Because that opening animation, the op, it is ridiculously detailed. That looks like the sort of anime opening you'd see out of like Ufotable in the modern day. And I remember watching it like a decade ago or whatever and being like, holy crap, this is like one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen. And again, it's all in the production quality, man. They made their visual novels look phenomenal.
Hey. I definitely remember Eden Asterisk as a quality from the art standpoint. So I can believe that what you're saying. They poured everything in. Maybe even explaining why they went under. Okay. Maybe they cooked too much.
They cooked too much. Oh.
They overcooked, okay?
But, and then I think another one was Alcott, the company, which I'm not totally aware if they've closed yet, but they are definitely planning to wrap up with their final release. They're the ones who created Clover Hearts, Clover Days, My Girlfriend is the President. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with any of those, but are you, Amar?
Yeah, I've heard the names. I did not read any of those.
Oh no. This might have contributed.
Yeah, this is the one
It's my fault. I'm so sorry. But yeah.
But I've heard about My Girlfriend is a President because it was quite memeable one.
Incredibly memey, silly comedy.
Yeah, existed in my, let's say, cultural zeitgeist somewhere.
But yeah, with all the companies, that unfortunately go out of business, the overhanging question with all of them is that how much of it is a symptom of their own personal, lack of success, to be blunt, and how much of it is simply the visual novel industry deteriorating. Because, I mean, there's kind of been, doom posting about visual novels for, God, at least a decade now. A bunch of people who consider that the industry's been in decline ever since, like, 2010. And, I mean, it's a difficult aspect. I touched on this earlier when I said that sometimes you need to adapt to the times. And visual novels, for better and for worse, seem to be just like masterpieces in their own way. They have so many amazing aspects. They have the art, they've got the voice acting, the written style, the story, the plot, the production values. And there's so much of it that can excel in so many different ways, but on the other hand, that means it's all got to be expensive. If you're a AAA, Japanese developer, then that means you have incredible costs for all of these different aspects, and you have to bank on this being a phenomenal success and making a lot of money. That's just the reality of it. And inherently, that's kind of risky, right?
Yeah, I agree. You never know what kind of story will land and stick. Should you innovate or not? Should you land something more safe, but then again, not stand out from the crowd and get buried? Like, look at Necopara. This is like de facto premier Catgear made VN, and every single VN that tries to emulate Catgear maids doesn't do as well as this one.
And I mean, there's also the very obvious boogeyman for the visual novel industry.
No, don't say
of
it.
Gotcha games. Ooh. Well, I mean, we've already seen a few companies that have entered the gotcha game sphere. Some of them have even found massive resounding success. I mean, we've got
Who could it be?
Tight Moon with Fate Grand Order. We've got Key with Heaven Burns Red. And it's hard to deny that there is a massive market, a massive lucrative market for entering the mobile game gotcha sphere. And it's a little, embarrassing for anyone to admit that it's definitely more lucrative than the visual novel business. Consider all...
Oh, it's running casinos, but I don't want VN developers start running casinos, okay?
Exactly, but then you have to consider that, like, okay, well, you're certainly preying upon, some gambling aspects here, and ideally taking advantage of people with addictive tendencies into rolling for their favorite characters and the flashing lights and the thrill. And there's an ethical concern, so, I mean, that's very real. That's absolutely considering. But on the other hand, it's what's allowed some companies to really thrive in their own way. And so you've got the visual novel industry kind of left wondering, can we survive on our own? Can we survive in the future?
Okay, listen. Listen. If I have to make a compromise, okay? So let's say it's very risky to create a new title, because you pour all those resources and you have only moderate amount of confidence if whether or not it will land. I'm willing to compromise. Given the fact how recently Ange talked about luminal criminal border, if the future is episodic VNs, I can compromise. No gacha, please.
Yeah.
If it decreases the amount of resources poured to try out to develop something new without risking the stability of the company to go episodic, fine. Okay. But no gacha, please. Because no.
Yeah, well, you have episodic titles, and, that way a company can put out a new IP, their brand new ideas, and then just, gauge the community interest before they sink too many resources into it.
Exactly.
And, of course, the flip side, the danger is that if they decide this isn't worth pursuing, everyone who liked this new story is now left at a cliffhanger. It's like, okay, I hope you enjoyed your chapter 1, and that's all you're gonna get. It's like,
true,
no.
that's true. That's a risk. Yeah, I get it.
But on the other hand, it's, if it helps the company to save money and it encourages them to pursue these maybe AA new potential story ideas, then hey, that's a good thing, right?
I prefer if it wasn't episodic, but I'll take it over gacha, okay? Any day now. I'll be honest, okay?
That's totally fair. However, there's one more, aspect to this whole, visual novel doom. It's that I do think there is a very rich ground for indie visual novel creators, especially in the West. We've talked a lot about the whole commercial side with the whole AAA and maybe even AA productions of visual novels, but I think the indie scene is, very much alive and well. Visual novels are so easy to create if you have no real, funds or nothing really to work with. I mean, you've got the free software and MP, you've got, easy backgrounds you can either create yourself or commission an artist or even just use stock footage. And pretty much the whole appeal to you to reach others is entirely in your own writing skills. It's something that any aspiring fanfic writer can be utilized if they apply themselves. And so you always have this entry of indie VN creators. Not all of it's going to be good, because that's just a fact of life for the indie scene, but it's still an amazing opportunity. It's still an amazing medium for people to express themselves. I know there's a lot of people who, aren't really going to try gambling their time on discovering indie titles to see if they like it or not. That's understandable and stuff, but I think that will always be there. So even if the top-heavy industry giants run into some difficulties, I think we'll always have those grassroots visual novel creators available. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. Be it also supported via itch.io or DL site. Those are the two probably the most prominent Western and Eastern platforms for those smaller indie titles. There has to be something said about the power of Steam for those titles that make it to Steam, that they get bigger exposure, undeniably. But granted, the process to get to Steam is a whole matter of a different problem, right?
It's like, okay, well, pick your poison.
Yeah. But on the flip side, if you manage to go to Steam, I can bombard my friends by sending them Black Souls. Okay?
Exactly. But yes, so I mean, that's where we're at, I suppose, when it comes to big visual novel companies that have since closed their doors and the future of the industry itself. So hopefully all of you listeners enjoyed. Thank you very much for listening in, and let us know what you think about the visual novel industry. Does its future have any hope left in it? I certainly think so.
Yeah, as much of a doomer as I am, I still hope against hope that there is still plenty of VNs to be hopeful about. As for all our listeners, thanks for listening in, and please comment what was your favorite developer that we've lost. And with that, venture out.
Venture out.